Hello, everyone. Hi. Welcome to Intro to React with Tailwind. Now, today, let me just hide this banner from below. We are starting. Yeah, got it. So, hi everyone. Hopefully, you all are excited as me, as much as I am, for Intro to React with Tailwind. Now, if you have attended my previous stream, you would remember that we did some hands-on coding. We used a platform called as Replit, and we are going to use the same today. We are going to use that platform once again and do some hands-on coding, do some live coding, and just have a good time. Okay, just learn things. And before we get started, let me just set up some ground rules just like the last time. This is going to be an intro session. So people who already know React, people who already know Tailwind, they are going to be a little bit bored. But hey, you are participating here, you have been here, you have been through that journey. Help others who have not been through that journey. Okay, so if you think that okay, this is too basic for me, this is like too beginner stuff, I just want to drop off, don't. Okay, stay and help others get started in this journey of React and Tailwind. So that's the first thing. Second thing, there are going to be some points during our coding session where things are just the way it is. Okay, we are not going to delve too deep because this session is not for that. This session is just to get you started up and running very quickly. And towards the end of the session, I will point you out to some other resources when you want to go deep into it, when you want to delve, like, into routing or things like that. We'll go into that. Okay, and finally, the code for this session will be on GitHub, but I'll upload it after the end of the session. So that's basically all I wanted to say. These were the ground rules, and now let's get started. We'll wait for 1 more minute. Let it be a round figure number, and we'll then get started. Sorry, I was just messing around with which layout would be very good. Now, if you look at in the chat, you'll find that I sent a link. Let me just highlight that link. So this is the website that I would like all of you to create an account on. Why? Because I feel local setup is, it just takes most of the time and you don't really get to enjoy the good stuff about coding, because local setup is just hectic. So many different platforms, so many different apps, so many different libraries. Oh my god. Replit allows you to basically remove all those hurdles, remove all that pain, and just get started quickly. This is like, I feel it's really good if you want to test something, if you want to just have a test file where you want to test one or two things, see how it works, leave it, delete it, whatever. I think Replit is a good platform for it. Okay, so, and no personal affiliation with me, but yeah, that is what I would suggest you all. So please create an account on Replit, and once you have done that, we are good to go to the next steps. And create an account, very easy. You just hit that sign up button, sign in with Google, solves it. Or sign in with Apple, solves it. Sign in with GitHub, I think, solves it. You don't really have to go through the cumbersome process of one step at a time. And I love that about these uh sign in with Google things. Okay, moving ahead. Once you have signed up, you will come to a screen similar to what you see for me right now. Okay. uh this was our previous session, the HTML CSS intro session. Now we are going to do an intro with React, and which basically means that we are going to go to the templates once again. And in templates, let's scroll down a bit, and you will find React JavaScript. This is the template that we are going to use. This template, it basically it has some pre-built things. Okay, it has few pre-installed things, which helps us a lot. It will help us a lot. Why? Because, well, we don't have to do the base setup, which, as I was saying, I really don't like it. Okay, it takes too much of time. So if you don't see the second option, if you don't see React JavaScript, you could go on the templates page. You can go to this search option here, search templates, and search for React. And you will find React JavaScript, React TypeScript. We'll go with React JavaScript. Okay, React JavaScript. So hit on that, click on that, and you have this option of use template on the top right corner. Okay, not exactly top right, but yeah, on the right hand side, you will find this option of use template. Click on that, whatever you want to name it. Let's say I want to name it as GHW React Tailwind Intro. And let's click on the use template, and it's going to boot up. It's going to boot up Replit. It's going to get connected. There would be some code. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. But I'm going to wait here for a few more minutes. Like, no, not minutes, but a minute basically, for everyone to reach this stage. So what have we done till now? Everyone who is joining in right now, hi everyone. What we have done till now, we went on Replit. It's still highlighted. Replit is the website we are going to use. Once you have reached that website, please make sure that you go to the templates option on the left sidebar. In the left sidebar, scroll down a bit, you'll find React JavaScript. If you don't see it there in the search template, just search for React. Use the first template of React JavaScript. Click on use template, give it a name, and that's it. If you have already created it, you can go to your home page, and it would be in under this My Ripples section. Okay, going back. I hope everyone has reached to that stage. Let me just hide this now. The screen should be visible. And yeah, that's it. That is it. So there's a question here. Am I going to explain Tailwind CSS? Yes, I am going to use explain Tailwind CSS. Maybe not too deep, but I would guide you how you can use it. Okay, or what's the best way to search for things, or what are the questions that you should ask or Google if you're stuck with something. So we will go in that pace. Rather than me giving you a bunch of things, we are going to delve, or dive inside and learn to search for the best things, if that makes sense, or search for the answers. I think that makes perfect sense. Okay, so everyone has reached here. Let's move ahead. Now, React. What is React? Now, this is going to be a very interesting question to answer. Why? Because we have two groups of people. One who think React is a framework, one who think React is a library. React markets itself as a library, and then we have people who think, oh no, we have a set way of writing React now, so it's more of a framework. I'm not going to be in that fight today. But what is React? If you remember from my session on HTML CSS intro, and I'm going to refer to that session a lot, so if you have not been a part, just ignore that point. But if you remember from my session, we talked about one thing, like since the inception of the web, all the websites boil down to just three different files, or three kinds of files. One is HTML, that is going to give the structure or the skeleton to your website. Then you have CSS, which is going to give the styling to the website. And then you have your JS or JavaScript, which is going to add the functionality, like clicking on a button, going to different page, uh, maybe animations. I mean, even animations can be done by CSS now. But then, if you want to do some charting and you want to have some good graphics, all those kinds of interaction between a user, a person, and a website. Even like right now, I am interacting with this particular website, this Replit, and there's the cursor, I'm interacting with it, I can select something, I can delete something, all these kind of you know come under interaction. I interact with the website. Okay, so okay, sorry, I was just reading a comment. Okay, if it's a compliment, thank you so much for that. Okay, so HTML, CSS, JavaScript, these are the three files, and now we come to something called as frameworks. Now, what is a framework? If you want to create a website every day, let's say that's your job, that's your specific job of creating a website every day, you don't want to copy paste things from 10 different repos to create one website. Like, let's say, remember the quiz app? Again, referring back to the previous one, but I think I can show it to you very quickly what the quiz app looked like. If I go back, if I go to HTML CSS one, and wait for it to load, and let's hit on run. Please run. Something's wrong. Okay, but let's see. Will it still? Interesting. I don't know why it's not running. But if you remember from that session, okay, if you remember from that quiz app that we built, the idea was, come on. Okay, I don't know why I cannot run this here right now. Interesting. Leave it. But yeah, we had a quiz app where we built a question answer, and even that in that answer we had input box, we had uh, what do you call a radio, we had a checkbox. We built all those things. And again, if you want to rewrite that, you'll have to, if you want to make, let's say, three questions with radio buttons, you would have to go and you would have to copy that, paste that, copy that, paste that, copy that, paste that. I mean, I've said copy paste so many times, but you get the idea. You have to copy some bits of code, paste it, and you have to repeat that again and again and again and like so many times, which is where we get the idea of frameworks. They have built a framework which is like a predefined, pre-built uh, project, if you can think of it, a predefined library, if that makes more sense to you. And they are saying that if you want to write CSS, use this particular style. If you want to write some other thing, let's say if you want to write navigation, like clicking on one page then going to another page by clicking on some other link, if you want to go with navigation, I have done that. If you want to do some styling is done. If you want to have a structure, it's done. Basically a framework gives you all that capability of some predefined things, that hey, this is a framework, it's predefined, it's pre-built, just use it and change according to your needs. Now, most of the frameworks which are in the market, which are freely available in the market, they use a technique called as JavaScript rendering. Okay, what that means is, instead of writing more HTML, you are writing more of JavaScript, which transpiles into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I said so many words. What do they mean? Even if it doesn't make sense, just leave it. We are going to delve into the code, hands on code. And yeah, it seems like it's on their side because I cannot render even this part of it. Let me just quickly hard reload. Let's see if. Hmm, interesting. If others are not facing that problem, if you see something here on the right hand side of your page, well, thanks. Come on. I don't really like this. But okay. Okay, cool. Coming back. What we have, so yeah, we have reached till this stage where we talked a lot about frameworks, where we talked about how frameworks have, like, it transpiles into JavaScript and all those things. And now let's just dive into it. Remember, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. That's all. Now, if you look on your left, you will see that there is a public folder. It's pre-built and like it exists. There's a fav icon.svg, just ignore that. There's a src folder which has three files. There's app.jsx, there's index.jsx, there's app.css, three files. Okay, and now we have the final of index.html. Ignore everything else right now. So index.html. Okay, what is this doing? So in index.html, what we have is, you have your HTML defined with, focus on this line of, like, line number 10, div id equals root. So whenever we are going to write React, we are going to say that whatever I write in JavaScript, convert it into uh, HTML and CSS and save it or render it below this line. So here, render it in this part, like this part. Okay. This is what we are actually telling it. We are actually telling it that, hey, whatever JavaScript I write, please make sure that you render it here in this space. How am I so sure about that? Like, how do I know it is going to render here? Let's go back to the source folder and let's go to index.jsx. So in index.jsx, read this line. What it is saying is, like ignore the first two parts. We are actually saying that document.get element by id root, and inside that render our app. Okay, again, ignore line number 6, ignore line number 8, but just focus on line number 7. We are saying this is this talking about it. just like the last time. Yeah. So anyone who was in my stream last time, we had the same issue. I don't know why. I think it's just like my stream when it starts, my Wi-Fi decides, hey, this is the best time to go down. Okay. So we are back. We are back. We are back. Hi everyone. So where were we? We were talking about something. So we were talking about this div ID. Sadly, it got changed. So now I am rechanging it. Hopefully my screen is visible. Let me confirm. Let me reconfirm. Yep, it should be. It should be visible. Yep, 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 yep. Okay, so we change this line. If we change this div ID to TOOR, and if you click on this open in new tab and you go, nothing should be rendered there. It should be a plain blank white page. So why am I telling you to click on this link? Because I can't see anything here. Okay, but if you go back to source, if you go here and you tell it, hey, get element by ID TOOR, and then wait for it to render. And if you again reload your this side of the page, like refresh it, or maybe go to a new tab. How do you go to a new tab? Go by clicking here. You'll find the React Vite plus Replit written there. So this is what is, making sure, like what I'm telling you, that this HTML, this is where all your data gets rendered. Let's leave it like that. We'll not change it. So that's the first part. Now, index.html, we saw like that is the skeleton, and that is where you tell it that, hey, whatever React am I typing, please render it inside this div. That's our first part. Moving on to the second part, what we have here. So we have this file, this first file, index.jsx. Now, the way the web works, or what they decided together collectively, they said anytime, anytime we find a file which starts with index.html or it starts with index.jsx, that is our root file. Okay, that is the first file we are going to look for. So think from the browser's perspective. Think you are a browser. A browser will load your website. And how does it load your website? It first searches, do you have index.html? Do you? Yes, you have it. Whatever it's written inside index.html, that's what it's going to load. If you, let's say, don't have index.html, then what it does is it finds the first file. Let's say it finds one.html or whatever the first file it encounters, and it loads that. So index.html, that should be the entry point to anything. And that is why you should have at least like one index.html and one index.jsx. Okay. So that's the first part. Index dot something is the first file that is loaded. Baseline. Okay. Now here we are importing a few things. We have import React from React. We have import React DOM from React DOM/client, import app from app. Now these first two lines, this is where you import React. You import the React library. Again, how am I so sure? On your left hand side, if you minimize this tools, you will find package manager files, packager files. And in that, go to this package.json. If you go there, you will find something called as React. Huh, I thought, where's React? On line number 20, you'll find React, okay, where it says that we are using React version 18.2.0. Again, we are not delving like too deep on what is a package manager, what is package.json. Let's move on from that for now. But yeah, this is where we are importing, okay, or downloading React. This is where we are downloading React DOM, and then we go to index.jsx and we are importing those libraries. And again, this is some boilerplate code. And then you have this third line, import app from dot slash app. What is this app? This is basically this particular file. Again, how do I know it? Below this, if you type intro to React and like whatever number of exclamation marks, if you reload on the right hand side, it should update. If you can't see it, click on open in new tab. You will find that intro to React written there. Where did I write intro to React? In app.jsx file, and index.jsx loaded it from app file and rendered it. Where did it render it? In this HTML, which has the ID of TOOR, which is here. So you see this level of nesting, like, oh my God, so much nesting. So it's like we have app.jsx where we wrote the code. App.jsx, like it took the code, whatever you wrote it went to one level ahead. It gave it to index.jsx, and index.jsx transpiled your code from whatever JavaScript you have written to your HTML and CSS if you have used it, and it gave it to index.html. And in index.html, there this particular div which has this ID of TOOR, and that's what rendered your code. See this level? I mean, yeah, that's how we are actually writing JavaScript code in JavaScript, and we are converting it. Okay, now that's the first thing. Now let's talk about the second thing. Why is it written JSX? Like, is it not JavaScript? Where did the X come from? Okay, let me answer that question for you. So JSX is, it looks okay. I don't know if you'll get the reference for this dialogue that I'm going to say, but if it looks like HTML, it feels like HTML, it writes like HTML, probably it's not HTML. Okay. So again, referring back to my previous session on intro to HTML CSS, you'll remember that we made a div tag there. We made like, okay, I can actually reference it from here. You look at this head tag, it starts here, and this head tag, okay, where does it end? Yeah, it ends here. There's a body tag which starts here, the body tag ends here. Look at how it is written, like body, like, opening brackets and body, and then closing here, and then it closes here by opening angle brackets, a slash, and then body written and closes. This is how HTML looks. But if you go to this file, you'll find that even a similar manner, main is written. There's opening angle bracket, main, closing angle bracket, opening angle bracket, backslash, main, closing angle bracket. That means main finishes here. You can have so many of those things. You could have like a div tag inside here, okay, and write hello world. Da, 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 da. Just remove this line and wait for it to load. And if you go back, you'll find that there is something there. Okay, you might have to scroll down a bit if you go on to that page. Okay, you might have to scroll down a bit because of something which I'll let you know later. But yeah, it exists. It is on that page. Just scroll down a bit. You'll find hello world written. So it looks exactly like HTML. It looks like we are writing HTML inside a JavaScript file. Why we know it's JavaScript? Look at the symbol like JS written. Okay, it looks like we are writing HTML inside of JavaScript, but it is not HTML. This is called as JSX. Okay, Google for the full form. Google what exactly JSX means. But yeah, it looks like HTML. It feels like HTML. It's not exactly HTML. It's a JavaScript extension. Okay, which, just to make sure that anyone who's writing React, they don't have to learn a completely new syntax. They made it look like someone made it look like HTML, but again, it's JavaScript. Again, I have said so many things. Let's get started with others. So we have talked about app.jsx. Now let's go to app.css. Now, if you go to app.css, remove these two lines, line number 3 and line number 4, okay, and go back to your app.jsx. So what is written here? So we have this app.css file which has main. Where is it coming from? It's coming from here. Okay, instead of main, if you had something else, like let's say this div tag, if I want, I could go to this app.css, write div and say background dash color should be red. If I come back here, you'll find that if you like again reload this part or open a new tab, you'll find there's a background color red. So we have this app.css file which is imported. Okay, import here. Okay, it's imported in app.jsx, and any styling that you write in this file, it just comes here. As simple as that. Now let's take a moment and let me just stop sharing and refresh and see what's the issue with Replit for a minute. But if you have any questions till now, just ask in the chat and I'll try my best to answer those things. Let me just like mute my screen. Okay, there's a question. Replit is showing white screen for me too. Yeah, I don't know why. Like I'm just going to Google if there is any solution to it, or we may need to just ignore that fact. Okay. Okay, it seems like there's like no difference to Replit. I tried to create a new app and still white screen. I'm sorry about that. I am going to just go back and let me share screen. I don't know if it's visible. It should be visible now. Okay, dokie. So we are back here, and I think there's a question in chat. The question basically says that why did we write hello world in div? The original line is outside of div and it made no difference. Oh yeah, this part. Oh, that was just to show that how you can style it. So let's say you want to style only this particular what do you call div. Okay, then you can write div and then go to app.css, and we gave it a background color of red. Okay, so that's why we just wrote it, but it doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't make a difference. You could just remove it and still be okay with it. Okay, okay, dokie. Now there's a question here. Can you give info about how React DOM works? Uh, I am not sure if this would be very helpful to others who are here to learn. So I'm so sorry, but we can talk about it towards the end of our session. If you have completed all the basics, we can talk about more of how React DOM works and how you could just make it your own in a way. Okay, so now let me tell you the first caveat of React. Anytime you see a return statement, after the return statement you have like your round brackets or parenthesis. In the parenthesis you will have one tag, and you can have only one tag, which basically means that if you have a main tag here, you have a closing main tag here, you cannot add a div tag below it and have a closing div tag below it. It is going to give error. Why? Because React by default only understands to have one parent element. If you hover over this error, you will see JSX expressions must have one parent element. So there cannot be one parent element, like one element which starts here, closes here, and a second element. You need to wrap these two elements in one single div. So what you could do by default is have a div around your element, and yeah, have a closing div, and you solve your problem. Now you can have as many divs as you want. You could have like div, you could have a section, and inside section you could write something, and then you could have a paragraph, like n number of things, but there should be only one parent element around the whole of nested elements. Okay, so that is the first thing. Number one thing is, if you want to write React, you have to make sure that there is only one parent element. There is only one parent element which encompasses everything around it, and everything else can be nested inside. So you could have like, I don't know, one main here, there's one div, there's one section, there's one paragraph, so many things you could do, but it should all be, okay, it should all be inside one parent element of this particular div. Seems like, I don't know why, but it seems like this has started working. I don't know, but yeah. So yeah, that is the first thing to make sure. Let me just remove this color of red. Looks very bad. Okay, yeah, finally we have it. Okay, so that's the first caveat. Now, what are we going to build? Let's start building. Let's not waste more time on me talking about random things. Let's start building. So before, like not before, when we start building, we are going to first make at least one uh, part of the quiz app, one question. We are going to write one question, and that question can be the first question. What comes after? So let me write that question down. Let me remove all these div tags, and let me have just one main tag, and inside this one main tag we'll have a h1 with q1 colon, and we'll have a h2 with question of what comes next in this series of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 dot 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 question mark. Okay, also if you go back to your app.css, just remove everything actually. Okay, go back to your app.css, just remove everything, and we have this thing like properly there. We have everything to the left and everything is visible. That's what we did. That's all what we did till now. What we did was, in the main tag, inside main tag, we deleted everything that was there. We created a h1 tag with q1 colon, and there's a h2 tag with the question what comes next in this series. Now I can copy this from here. I will paste it in chat just so that it's easy to copy paste. And we also went to app.css and deleted everything there. We don't want any random styling to affect whatever we are doing. Okay. Okie dokie. So once we have done all of that, let's now go to your app.jsx, and yeah, let's start writing the next bits of it. Now, what do I want here? I want a input box, and in that input box, I want people to write text, and there should be a submit button. So let's do that. So again, there's an input box, and let's close it. Now, if you remember from my previous course, the input, it needed to be like this. Okay, it did not have to be self closing, but React tells you. And how do we know that it needed to be like this? We used a website called as w3c validator, where we copied our html, pasted it there, and it said that input tags do not to have that, like, should not have that slash backslash, should not be self closing. That's the word we used. But React tells you that any element that opens, it should close with a backslash. So if you open a h1 tag, you need to close it with a backslash h1. Input tag does not need to have a, like, this kind of closing. Okay, it does not need that. So that is why it will be self closing. It should be self closing. Yeah, we do not need that. We can write it. React renders it. It reads it. Oh, this is an input. And okay, I know how to render an input. But you do not need to have a closing input like h1. It's self-closing. But if it's self-closing, there should be a backslash. Now, this input, it is going to be type of, like, text. It's going to be of type text. So this is going to be a text input. And just see where I put it. I put it in double inverted commas, and I said that, hey, this is going to be of type text. So if it's going to be of type text, we can write anything here. And if there are different types, there is also type of number, and now it only takes in numbers, and it does not take in letters except the letter E. We discussed all about why it takes letter E. But hey, this is going to be of type text. So that sorts it. And then you have the button. So we need to have a button, and button is like complete closing. And in that button, let's call this a submit button. And yeah, that's it. That's our first question. Now let me copy all of this and give it in chat to you all. So what did we do till now? So we took a h1 tag, we took a h2 tag, wrote some things, we made an input which is of type text, and we made a button which is a submit button. Now so this is what you, like, basically write in React. If you set up all the things as boilerplate, you can just go to your app.jsx, start writing things. Okay. Now, where does Tailwind fit in all this picture? Where does Tailwind come in? So Tailwind is basically, you can think of Tailwind as a different way to style something. Think of Tailwind as CSS. Okay. So normally what we do is we go to, let's say, app.css, we write it, and we import it the way we imported it in app.jsx. We will go to app.css, we'll write some tag and we'll write some style, we'll come to app.jsx, import it, and it applies style. But when we use Tailwind, instead of writing CSS, we are writing Tailwind. Okay, that's the major difference. Instead of writing CSS, we are writing Tailwind. Okay, just remember that part. Instead of writing CSS, we are writing Tailwind. Okay, that's the sentence that you need to remember. Now, how do we add Tailwind to this website? How do we add it? So if you see, there should be a shell somewhere, okay, on your page, somewhere on your page, okay, shell, not console, I mean shell. The name should be shell. If you don't find it on your right left, like right hand side somewhere, you can go on the left, go to tools and search for shell and click on it. You'll open shell. Okay, so in the shell we are going to add or install the library. How do we install a library? Well, I can give you the command definitely. I'll also give you the link to their website. So Tailwind CSS, that's the name. And the website is tailwindcss.com. Okay, once you have the website link, let me just quickly stop sharing and let me present that particular screen. Yeah, this is what you should be looking at. Once you open that website, you should be looking at something like this. Okay, number one, we'll click on this button here, get started. And once we reach get started, we are using a framework. What framework are we using? Well, we are using React, that you know for sure. How do you know that for sure? I was telling you that. But we are also using something called as Vite. Vite, Vite. Again, how do we know that? In your console, if you go to your console on your Replit, you will find that, yeah, if you go to your console on Replit, you will find that there is Vite written here. Okay, so I mean console. I don't mean shell this time. I mean console. If you don't see console, just come to the left hand side on the tools and click somewhere on, like, search for console and click on it. You'll find something as Vite written here. Am I not sharing my screen? I think I am. I am sharing my screen. I'm very sure. Can someone else like reconfirm, please? If you should be able to see Replit, and I am, just highlighting Vite. Yeah, okay, perfect. So Vite. So that's how we know that we are using Vite. Okay, now let's go back to Tailwind. I am going to now start sharing Tailwind, and you should be able to see Tailwind CSS website. And yeah, I'm again very sure that you are seeing that, because I am looking at my own stream now on my mobile phone just to confirm. So, okay. So we came to Tailwind CSS. That's the website. We clicked on get started. We went to framework guides. And in that, the third option is Vite. Okay. If you go to Vite, this is how you can create a Vite project. We have already created that. Thank you, Replit. Okay, so we don't need to do these first two things. Let's come to this part. In your terminal, you can see it's like written terminal. Copy this first line. Okay, copy it. Come to your uh, Replit. Okay, come to your Replit. Copy that first line. Come to your Replit, and here on the bottom where you have shell, please listen to this very carefully. Where you have shell, just paste it. Okay, as simple as that, and then hit enter. So copy that first line and paste it. If you are not able to see the website, I am pasting that command in chat. Okay, let it install, let it install, let it install. Once that is done, you can go to package.json and just scroll down a bit, and you will find, like for me on line number 22, you'll find Tailwind CSS being installed. So we have installed Tailwind CSS, but setup of Tailwind is a little bit longer, so please bear with me. Going back to Tailwind website. So we have installed Tailwind CSS, that's done, not a problem. Now let's come back to the Tailwind CSS website, and let's copy the second line. Let's copy the second line, that is npx tailwind css space init space dash p. So copy that second line, come back to your replit, and again in your shell, please paste that. Okay, come back to your replit, and in your shell, please paste that line and hit enter. That's it. Again, I am going to share this command in the chat. And what it did was it created Tailwind CSS config file, and the name of the config file is tailwind.config.cjs. And it also created post CSS config file, and the name of that file is postcss.config.cjs. Okay, it did these two things. Let's go back to the Tailwind website once again. What's inside that file, we don't need to know right now. We'll come back to it later. Coming back to our Tailwind website, it's telling us that in your tailwind.config.cjs, in that, please, copy this whole thing. Let's copy this whole thing. Yeah, let's copy that whole thing. Let's copy this particular part. Coming back to our replit, and once you come back to replit, go to tailwind.config.cjs, select everything, delete it, and paste. Okay, that's all you have to do. Select everything, delete it, and paste. Okay, as simple as that. So that's again one part done. Let's go back to Tailwind. I know it's a long process, especially when I'm saying it all so slow, but hey, we are here to learn. Okay, once you go back to Tailwind, copy everything and see where it is telling you to paste. It's telling you to paste it in index.css. If you remember, we don't have that file. So instead, what we are going to do is we are going to go to app.css and paste it in app.css. So copy everything, but it's telling you to paste it in index.css. We don't have that particular file in our list of files. So we are going to paste it in app.css. Okay. We have already deleted everything from app.css. So we only have these three lines. Let's go back and let's go here. It's telling you run the build process with npm run dev. We don't need to do that. We have that button. We have that start stop button on the top. So we'll do that and start using Tailwind in your project. Finally. So what we can do is we can take something like this. So we have this class name equals to all these things. Let's copy that line. Okay. Copy just this much. Just copy this much. There's class name equals double inverted comma and then three things, and it closes double inverted comma. Just copy that, come back to your replit. Man, I forgot the name, sorry. Come back to your replit, and wherever you see h1, just paste it there. Now, once you paste it, I don't know if you see any difference. I don't. So what we are going to do is we are just going to stop and like let it rerun, and then let's see if we can see any difference. uh, I was hoping for like I was hoping that we'll see some difference. Seems like I am seeing a blank white page. Oh no, we got it. We got it. We have Tailwind up and running. Okay. How do I know again? Because there is this text dash 3XL. It's saying that the size of text should be like 3XL large. And you have this font dash bold. Okay. And there's this underline. So can we make some changes to be sure? Instead of 3XL, can I make it like 2XL? And do I see some difference? Yeah, something changed. It became smaller. Can I make it just XL? Yes, something again changed. It became more small. Can I just remove this underline? Yep, that's removed. So we are sure that Tailwind works. We are so sure that Tailwind works. We saw all of it. Now, I think there's so many things in the chat. I'll go back to the chat and see uh, why are your docs different from mine? I am not sure. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Aman, for helping out a fellow colleague. Thanks a lot. Okay, coming back. So we have what all things do we have? We have added Tailwind. We have added a few other things, and we are so sure that Tailwind works because we had underline written here and we deleted that, and now we are adding it back, and our underline should come under Q1. We had text as 3XL. We changed that to just XL, and it made it smaller. We changed it back to 3XL. It made it bigger. So we are sure Tailwind works. Now now this is where everyone else stops integrating Tailwind, but I have something better. Okay, why? Because I have tried it and it works. So let's go back to tailwindcss.com. Okay, let's go back to tailwindcss.com, and on the top nav bar you will find something called as components. Okay, click on that. You will come to a new website. Again, this is by Tailwind, and there is this again a documentation on top. Click on that. I'm going to share this link in the chat. Does adding Tailwind remove all the default settings? The box of input is gone. Submit box looks worse. Yeah, it does. And that is why we are going to make it better. We are going to do something to make it proper in a way. We are going to add some styling to it, which makes it look much better. But yeah, adding Tailwind, it wiped out all our default settings. Sad. Okay, now let's come back to, yeah, I've shared a link, and in the documentation, once you're here, the first thing that it suggests, it's add this link of inter.css. Okay, what is the current font that we are using? Let's go and check. If you go to your replit and you click on that open in new tab, you should see something like this. Okay, once you go to your replit and you click on open in new tab, you should see something like this, a page like this. And if you try to inspect that page, how do you inspect a page? You just right click. Okay, right click on that page, and yeah, if you hover over it, I don't think you can see my inspect tab, but if you see the hover, just see the hover, see the third line, font 30 pixel, UI dash sans dash serif, and then there's system UI and then something blah blah blah. But so the font that we are using, that is the system font. If you want to change that font, we can add the inter.css font. So coming back to our tailwindui.com/documentation, what it is telling you that, hey, you can use any font that you want, but they have written the whole website using inter.css. So even we could do that. So just copy this particular link. Okay. After copying it, go back to your replit. Once you go back to your replit, go to index.html. Okay. Once you go back to replit, go to index.html, index.html, and wherever you see title, like let me make it, yeah. So after this, or basically anywhere in head, okay, anywhere in head tag, just paste whatever you copied. And if you see here, so meta charted, it has a closing backslash, link has closing, meta name has closing. So even our link should have like a closing backslash, like self closing, make it self closing. So what did we do? We just copied a particular link of adding inter.css font and pasting it in chat. So you'll have, everyone will have the same thing. So we added this. Now let's go back to the documentation, tailwindui.com/documentation. And it's saying that then add intervar to your sans font family in your Tailwind config. Remember the name of our Tailwind config file, tailwind.config.cjs. So let's copy this first line. Okay. Copy this first line, only first line. Go to tailwind.config.cjs. Okay. Tailwind.config.cjs and paste it on line number 2. Where is tailwind config cjs? It's in our replit. Okay, so just paste it on line number 2, come back to documentation, and in documentation it's saying that in theme there should be an extend. In that extend, add this font family. Okay, add this font family. Let's copy only those 2 lines, come back, and you should see your in your replit in tailwind config cjs, you have theme, extend, and just paste the font family there. Okay, just paste it there, hold on for like 2-3 seconds, let your website reload, let it apply these changes. Now if you go back to your, like the whole website, now if you see my screen, and you should be able to, I'm sure, if I hover over something, if I hover over H1, now if you see the third line, font 30 pixel intervar. So we have applied the font of inter, okay, INTR, intervar to our website. Okay. Whew. Too much of work. I know it seems like that, but once you get a hang of it, it's just like quick, quick, quick. You know where to install it from, you know where to get the documentation link from, you know how to add the font. It's just quick, quick, quick. First time it feels like a pain. Let's come back to the documentation. I'm so sorry, but this is the last thing I'm going to do. Copy this particular line. Okay, so in your using React, inside installing dependencies, you have this npm install headless UI/react and hero icon/react. So what are these? So headless UI, it basically is, as the name says, it's headless. It does not come with any styling. It is non-styled, unstyled React way of writing JSX. Okay, React way of writing your tags, main tag, button tag, link tag, whatever. Then you have hero icons, which is again made by the same people who have made Tailwind, and these are just icons. That's all. Okay, so we are going to copy that line, come back. I know it sounds so repetitive. But yeah, come back, and in your shell, okay, again, in your shell, paste that and hit enter, and it should start installing it. Pasting it again here. So this is what you have to install. You have to install headless UI React and hero icons React. Okay. So after you have installed all of that, also let me give you the Tailwind config file. So anyone who missed out, in your Tailwind config.cjs, delete everything that you have and paste this, and that should just solve everything. Okay, that should just ensure that you are not left behind on something. Oops, I think it's too big for Twitch. Let me retry again. Nope, I'm so sorry, but it's not going for Twitch. But I think you should be fine enough. What you had to do, you had to go to Tailwind documentation, copy a few lines, and then go to inside module.exports. We added a few things in your theme. We added the font, and that's it. Okay, okay, dokie. Now let's take like 3 minutes break here. Okay, like exact 3 minutes, and we'll come back. Let's like just stretch around a bit, and we'll come back and we'll do few more things. We'll talk about what is components, and yeah, that should be. Just stretch around, come back. I'll mute myself now. Okie dokie. Hi everyone. It's good to be back after stretching and having a sip of water. Let me just hide this. We are back. We are back. Okay, there's a question on inspecting font still shows Times New Roman. Check your config file, I think. Maybe that's the issue. Uh, Also, remember that you had to add this particular line in your index.html, this is where you're actually importing that style, okay, that font, and everywhere else you're just adding it. So if you have not got that, I'm pasting it again in the chat. So take this particular line, go to your index.html and paste it in the head tag, inside head. Okay, inside the head tag, please make sure that you paste that particular line. And once you have pasted that, check your config, restart the app maybe once again, and that should solve it. Yeah, then the last option I think I can say is please restart the app, because I don't exactly know if there's something that's missing. Hmm. Restarting should solve it, solves most of the things. Or maybe is there any extension that's blocking? I don't know. Not very sure, but hey, we could all check that out. Okay, coming back. Okay, dokie. Now let's come back to this part. So we have h1 tag, we have h2 tag, we have the input, we have button, and it looks worse. Can I show my app.jsx? Yes, it is. Is it visible now? Yeah, it should be. So all that we have is this, and none of these things should interfere with your uh, font. Also remember, if you have done the app.css part, okay, app.css, hopefully you added this app.jsx, this part, maybe, again not so sure. Yep. Okay, dokie. As I said, like reload, maybe that should solve the issue. Coming back, so we have this and it looks very ugly right now after adding Tailwind. So what are we going to do? We are going to just make it better. We are going to make it better. How do we make it better? We are going to add some styling. Now I have written my styles on the left hand side, but I'm also going to walk you through of how I came about it. So, number one thing, this button. Let's start with the button itself and then we'll move on to everything else. So, for the button, what do I have? Okay, let's go back to. So, now I'm going to show you how you can just, copy paste a few styles without having to write everything of your own. Okay, without having to write everything of your own. That's why we are using Tailwind, right? Just make it simple, make our life simple. So let's go to our tailwind.css website, tailwindcss.com, that's the URL. And if you are looking at it, I am sharing screen, you should be looking at it. Yeah, let's go to our docs. So here you have this docs option, and in the docs option, in the quick search, you can just search for button. So now button, there are so many things about button. If you just click on that search, so there's this pre-flight buttons have a default outline. Then you have borders, pill buttons, file input buttons, buttons, but so many buttons. Let's go with the second one. Let's see what it says. What does it say? It says that you can have a button and you can have something like a rounded full, maybe. What else can you have? You can have rounded none. But for that, we still need to have this background color. We need to have this background blue color and have the text in white. So maybe this is not the most helpful one. What else do we have? Let's go with search again, and let's go with something like reusing styles. So basically what are we doing? We are searching on the whole Tailwind website, is there a button whose style we can copy? So I went to search, I searched for btn, and the first option is reusing styles. And in that, now the concept here is very different. What it is talking about, that is very different. But if you look at this part, this py2 px4 bg blue 500 blah blah blah, so many things here, if you copy just that part, Okay, this is what I'm telling you. Stealing code, which is not a very bad habit if you actually think about it. It's about reusing what someone has built. That's the whole point of having a library. Okay, that's the whole point of having a library, reusing someone else's code. Okay, so we are using this part, and let's come back to our React. And in your React, if you see this button, start writing class, and start writing actually class name equals double inverted comma, and paste that thing here. And you'll find on the right hand side the button has changed. Okay, so there is a question here in chat. How is React helping in any of this? It's not a dumb question, it's the perfect question. How is React helping in this? Okay, we are just writing HTML kind of code in React. We can do it in HTML too, right? Yeah, true that. How is this React helping? We are going to come to that in like next 10 minutes, I guess. Okay, we are just going to come to that in next 10 minutes. How is React helping? We are going to do something called as reusing. Okay, what is reusing? I'll let you know definitely. Okay, so we copied that whole thing. So let me give you that button style. So we copied something from somewhere and we added that, and we have the button which is fully styled right now. Okay, now what else can we style? We have this, we have the Q1, we have this particular part, we have submit button. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's wrap this whole thing in a section. Okay, let's wrap this whole thing in a section. And once you have wrapped it in a section, you will find, yeah, something like this. Now if I want to have a similar input once again, I'll copy this, I'll add it to a section below. Okay, I'll add it below. So now we again have Q1, what comes next in the series, and there's the submit button. Okay, oh, we still have to style the input. So let's come back to input. Let's write class name equals. So in class name equals, let's write what I have here. We will say that this should be of block. Okay, how are we getting all this? Let's go back to Tailwind CSS, Tailwind UI doc, TailwindCSS.com. Sorry, yeah. Share this tab. Now I'm again going to tell you how you can not spend too much of time on things and just use what is already available. So if you go to TailwindCSS.com and you go to components, okay, you go to components. So on TailwindCSS.com, on top you have this components. If you go to components and you scroll down, these are some things which are pre-built. Okay, you could actually click on this components once again. So yeah, this is, go to tailwindcss.com, click on components and click on components once again and scroll down a bit. So these are a few components which are pre-built. So the Tailwind CSS people, they made this website where you get some pre-built components. What is a component? Think of component as a base level thing which is pre-styled, it's styled already. So in this component, we are going to, now let me tell you, anything which has a lock here, it is paid. Anything which does not have a lock, it's free. So let's go to this first one. There's this hero section. You see the preview, you also get the code. You get HTML code, you get React code. So preview, code, React. Okay. So here you can make a hero section which has this your company logo, a few links, and a login button. It does not have input, so we'll go back and let's just keep scrolling till we find input. Okay, let me scroll all the way to something which has input. Now, where is input? There is this form layout that has these inputs, and that is not even paid. It does not have that log button, so it's free for at least the first one. We can take this as input. This is input. How I know? Because I can type something here. So if I go to that code and I change it to React, okay, where is it? So website, HTTP, and input. So let's find where is this website written. There's this website and HTTP and input. Got it. So in input, if we copy this whole class name, okay, let's copy this whole class name thing. So this whole particular line, okay, if I copy this part, I come back to our code, okay, we come back to our code, and in our code we just in input, class name equals something, just paste that, like, sorry, delete this part and just paste the whole thing that we copied. You should see some difference, not very well, like not too much of it. So let's read. So what is it saying? So here it's saying that the class name should be block. I don't know what that is. Let's say I don't know what is w full. Well, actually I know w full is width full, class flex one, rounded none, border gray 300. Okay, border gray 300. Can we change this border gray 300 to, let's say, border gray 800? Does it make a difference? Does it is it making a difference? Interesting, it's not. Okay, what is this? Rounded none and rounded RMD. So many things, man. Let's delete. Let's start deleting things and let's see if it's making a difference. Is it making a difference once we start deleting? Well, it doesn't look like it. What are we missing? What are we missing in this? So if you go back to our form layout, okay, if you go back to the form layout thing, you will find something written at the top. This example requires some changes to your config. So in our config, we have to add in the plugins, we have to add this particular line. I don't know, maybe it can help, maybe it will not. Let's do it. Let's copy this line. Let's go back and in our tailwind.config.cjs, in our plugins, let's paste it. Okay, let's paste that part. And what do we have? Everything went away. Everything went away and everything broke. So actually what happened was, we told it that, hey, we require this particular library, but we have not installed that library, so let's install it. So npm install, and then just paste that name and hit enter. It's going to install something and something's going to happen. And if nothing changes on your web view, just stop it and rerun it, and that should get your code up and running. Okay dokie. So we restarted it, and let me just copy paste that command in this npm install this particular library. So this is what we installed. We installed this particular library. Why did we install it? Well, we were told. Who told us? When we were copying it from the components, it said that this requires some changes in your config. And we have to add this particular plugin of at tailwind css slash forms. So to add this particular plugin, we had to install it, and then we go to our tailwind.config.cjs, and in the plugins we have to just copy paste this. Now let's come back to our input. So in our input we deleted a few things. Let's copy it back. Okay, So I'm going to copy this particular line once again, and we are going to come back to our uh, code, and we are going to go to app.jsx, and wherever we have input, just paste it once again, and you should find it. You should find the input box, and you should find it looking much better than what it did previously. Okay, now I'm going to give you a set of styles. How it works, why it works, just understand that it works because I've tried it. So I'm going to just write a few things here. So class name equals, and where it comes from, how it comes from, we are going to see it, but just give me a minute till then. So we have to have some class names here. So I created a class name which says flex, and it says place content center, and it says m-4, and we also have a div tag here. I'm going to paste this code in chat, so you don't need to really like write it with me. So in this div tag, we are again saying class name equals, uh, we are saying that, hey, overflow dash hidden, and we are saying bg dash slate dash 900, and text dash slate dash 300, and then min width full. Yeah, we wrote a bunch of things. And what does it mean? How does it help us? Let's see. Wait. So now we have written this, and let me also write one final div, and let's paste it just here. And we have class name equals, we have px-4, py-5, and px-6. And in our input, let's remove this rounded dash md. Let's just keep it rounded dash md actually. And in our submit button, we have py-2. Let's also add, like, what do we add? What do we add? my-4. Yeah, ton of things. I'll share this. But this is how our input box looks. This is what it started with. This is what we ended with. Oh, I'm not sharing that particular tab. Sorry. So yeah, this is how our input box now will look. Okay. We started with something which is below. This is what we started with. And this is where we ended. We ended with this particular thing. Where did this all come from? Let's go back to our Tailwind CSS website. Okay. TailwindCSS.com website, and let me share that tab. So once you go there, if you go to docs and you search for customizing colors, okay, you go to customizing colors. That's the first link that you get. This is where the colors are coming from. So you remember I used bg-slate-900. That's where the color is coming from. bg or even text-slate-300. This is where it is coming from. Okay, let me just quickly show that to you. So we have here on this particular line, okay, bg dash slate dash 900, we are saying that please, bg is background, it's a shorthand for background, and we are telling it that please make the background of this color slate with whatever, like 900, the version 900. We are saying that please make all the text in this particular section to be of slate 300. Then we have this minimum width full. Again, we can go back to the docs. Okay, Let's go back to Tailwind CSS docs and let's search for minimum width or min. Even if you just type min, you'll see min dash width. You click on the first link, you see these are the options. So this is the shorthand and this is what it actually means in full CSS. Okay. So if you would have written this inside CSS file, this is what you would write. But on in Tailwind, you can do it like this. You can say min width dash 0. It tells minimum width to be 0 pixels. Min width full, it means minimum width to be 100% or whatever. We also so we had that. Well, what else did we have? We had that overflow hidden. What is that? Let's search for it. Overflow. Let's search for overflow, and yeah, these are the options. You have overflow auto, overflow hidden, what it means. So you can find the description to it below. You can go like, okay, what is use overflow visible to prevent content within an element from being clipped. What else do we have? If you just just keep scrolling, and you keep reading, you'll get an idea. Now for Tailwind, let me tell you this. You need to have some idea about how CSS works before you start using Tailwind. But most of the times, as I gave you the trick, if you go to tailwindui.com and you go to components and you just keep scrolling, keep searching, you will find a component which will suit your need, a free component. Maybe sometimes you need to find a component and just take one part of it. Example, on this website, let's say I go to application form. What if I only want this outer card? I don't want anything inside it. I can go to the code, I can copy everything and just delete whatever I don't need. Are you getting me? So you can find components. I want this outer card, I want this card layout, but I don't want full name, application for, or whatever. I don't want all of this. I just want this outline. I want this text. I want this text. What I'll do is I'll go to the code, I'll copy everything, and I'll delete everything that is here. Okay, basically everything that I don't need. And what I'm left with, I'll delete all this, I'll be left with the only outer part. So that is how you reuse code. And that is, I think, the best way to use bits and pieces of Tailwind when you are getting started. Now, let me come back to our tab and now let's answer this particular question. How is React helping us? How is React helping us? Let me share the link to Replit. I have shared it. Okay, how is React helping us? So you see this particular section that I had copied below. Let me delete that particular part. And let me just copy this particular section once again, whatever we wrote. Oops. Let me copy it down. I'll also put that in chat. Let's see if it goes. I don't know. It seems like it's too much for Twitch. Yep, it's not able to send it. So we made this section and we copied that section once again below. And now you will have two inputs. Now, if you want, you will have to, like, if you want to have a question number 2, you will have to change the question to what comes next in the series. Let's say you want to change this question to 2, 4, 8, 16, and then what's next? Like, something like that. So then you'll have to copy, copy, copy. The place, now this is where React is very helpful. How? Because it allows you to extract this whole thing as a separate component. What does that mean? Like, on your source, let's create a new file here. Inside source, create add file, and let's call it text input component .jsx. Okay, text input component .jsx. Let's write, the first line would be import React from React, very basic line. Then the next line, we can actually copy it from this export default function app. So we can copy this particular line, go back to our text input, paste it here. Instead of app, it would be called as whatever you name the file. So let's call it as text input component, and then you have curly brackets. Again, I'm copying it from here. Then inside that you have this return. Let's copy that return here, and also let's close it. Now inside this, what I'll do is I'll take this section, okay, cut it, come here and paste it. Okay, cut it and paste it. Now if I go to my app.jsx and let me just delete this particular section, there should be nothing on my app.jsx. It should be empty. It should be plain empty. Let's import this text input component. How do we import? We write import and whatever the name of the file is, it's text input component from, like, don't add the extension, don't add .jsx after it. So we are saying that we created this file text input component, and that's the name of the file. Okay, you can see here it's text input component.jsx, and we wrote something here. Whatever is the name, we go to app.jsx, we say import text input component from, and we do a dot slash, and that's a text input component. Okay, so many things. So what we did, what we initially started with, we had this particular section which we had written in app.jsx. We cut it from there, we created a new file, we pasted it there, and now we imported that file here in app.jsx. Now if we want to use that, we just write text input component and do a self closing, wait for it to load, and you see it on the right hand side. Okay, you should see it here. Now you can just copy this particular line, like paste it 3 times, and you should have it like 3 times. Okay, like this is the feature of React. Okay, making things out in separate components. Think of a component as the most basic building block, and that's what we did. We had so much of code. Now there was a question, how is React helping? This is how React is going to help us. Okay, you just take it out and make a separate component, and that's it. Now in this component, if you see, there is one problem. Everything is question number one. No, we want every component to have a different question. We can do that too. Let me show you how. So let's go back to our uh, text input component.jsx. In the curly brackets, okay, what all things we need? We need a question number, we need a question. So these are the two inputs our text input component should get. So let's write that. We say it needs a question, it needs a question number. Okay, or maybe like question number first and then question, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. So it needs a question number and it needs a question. Okay, now whenever it gets a question number, we come to the particular, let me just close this and make this small so you should be able to see. You see this question one. Okay, wherever you see this question one, delete it, and in curly brackets write question number. So what we say is, like, in h1 tag we had q1 written here. Okay, here we had q1 colon written. Instead of that, we said, like, let's make a variable and call it here. Similarly, in h2 we have this particular thing written, delete it, and in curly brackets write question. What is variable coming, how is coming, how to have, like, why are we writing it in curly brackets? It's out of the context of what we are doing today right now, actually. So let's come back, let's first build things and then we'll talk about it. So now let's come to the text input component. it takes in a question. Also, let me like reload this tab. I don't know why it's not giving suggestions, but it should give suggestions. So question equals, this is q1 colon, no, question is not q1, sorry. Question is uh, what comes next in this series 2468 comma dot 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 question mark. And then we have question. Okay, now we are getting hints. So question number, and that is equal to, you can say q1 colon. Now if you check the web view, you should see this thing. Okay, so we gave it question number and we gave it question. Now you can reuse this as many times as you want and change things for everything. So now we call it q2, the second one becomes q2, and what comes next in series, let's change this question to 2, no, like let's say 3, 6 and 9, 12 dot dot dot. Okay, it's becoming that simple. Everything needs just question number. Okay, we say question number, and whatever you give it, it will take that. So question number and question equals, what is the capital of India, let's say. So you see, this is how it becomes easy to use a component. And we are writing everything inside main, so there should be one parent element only. Okay, and let me see. So main is optional in text input component. uh Instead of main you can have something else, but there should be one parent element. How to have components side by side? We can do that using Tailwind CSS. Okay, we can use a grid functionality. uh to read more about grid functionality, you can go to documentation of Tailwind CSS and just search for grid, and you find these options like flexbox and grid template rows, grid template columns. There's a layout grid, and if you go to grid, you get an idea. If you, this number one, that could be your first component, this number two, that could be your second component, and it is saying that if you want things to be in a grid pattern, you need to make sure that you have to add this class of grid gap 4, grid columns 3, grid rows 3. So grid columns 3 basically means there should be 3 columns, grid rows 3 basically means there should be 3 rows. So let's copy this actually. Okay, let's see if it works or does it need something else. So we can go back here, we can go to our main, and we can say that in main add this particular class name and wait for it to load, and you have it. Voila, you have it. Okay, okay, okie dokie. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope you understand how you can search for something. So you have to search for, if you want things to be side by side, just search for grid. Now instead of grid column 3, I don't want 3 columns, I only want 2 columns. I can change it to grid calls 2, and I'll have only 2 columns. Okay, I can change the grid rows to be 2, and I can, basically change all those things. And if it doesn't reload, just do a hard reload. Okay, so have a look at this. It's basically changing it to 2 columns, and whatever number of rows you want, more rows, you want to add more things, just keep on adding it. Okay, okie dokie. So we made we made our first component, and you understood the idea. Can we make another component? Yes, we can. Let's say I want to make a text radio component .jsx. So in our text radio component, what we want is, let me just minimize this part for now. in our text radio component, let's copy this first like few lines, like actually till return, from return till this. Let's copy it and let's come back to our text radio component, and let's close this and let's close this, and let's format this particular file. So we created a new file, this called as text radio component, where we are basically telling it that, hey, I want radio buttons. Okay, the buttons that allow me to only choose, one option at a time. That's what I want. Okay, so let me just share this very small piece of code that should go. Yeah, that went, thank god. Now coming here, I want a input. So let's create, let's say it needs to have only one parent, so let's create a section. Okay, inside the section I want a question. So h1, this is where my question will come. So for question, let's write question, and let's create a h2. This is where my, sorry, h1, this is where my question number is going to come. Okay, and h2, this is where my question is going to come. Let's create an input. Now in input we need to have the type equals to, it should be of type radio. Okay, self closing, and then finally we have the button. So I can go back to text input component. Okay, I can copy the style of my whole button and just paste it here. Okay, yeah, just do that simple thing. And now let's go to my app.jsx, and let me delete this question number 2. Let's say I have also delete question number 3. Let's say I have one question, and let me add this particular new component that we created. What's the new component called? It's called as import text radio. I think, yeah, that's what we call it. Text radio component. Radio component from dot slash. Basically, we are saying, let show me all files in this particular folder. And yeah, now if we want to use it, we use text radio component and self closing. This takes in two things. It takes in a question number, and you can get that hint. Question number, you can say that this is question number question 2, and it takes a question. And let's say the question is, what is the capital of UK? Now it takes in these two things and it renders something on the right hand side, as you can see. Not very good. First thing, I want this black box around it. I want the same color, same styling. And where are the options? It just shows a button. So options can be the third prop. So this is called as prop. So whatever we were writing, in these curly brackets, these are called as props. So we can have a third prop, which is called as options. Let's say it takes in 4 options. So option 1, option 2, option 3, and option 4. Okay, it takes in these 4 options. So we need to have input of type radio, and below that we also need to have a label, right? By a label, because label is something which comes to the right hand side. So this label would be option 1. Then we can copy these two lines and just paste it like 4 times, and instead of option 1 it would be option 2 second time, then option 3, and then option 4. Why did we do it? Because we wanted, like, there's the input and there's the first option with the label, so adding spaces, that should help. So input and option 1 as the label, input and option 2 as label, input and option 3 as label, input and option 4 as label, and then the submit button. Okay, and option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, we need to pass that from app.jsx. So let me also add that. So this is my text component, and then this is my text radio component. So text radio component also takes in What all things it takes in option 1? So option 1 equals to, let's say, Delhi, and option 2 equals to, let's say, London, option 3 equals to, let's say, New York, and option 4 equals to, let's say, Berlin. Okay. So now if you see it, huh, now we have the radio button and we have the option, but we are facing a very big problem. We can select all of the options. That is not allowed. Okay. So there's a question. Should you write export default function text radio component? So we are actually exporting it on the first line, so that's fine. There are two ways to export a function. One would be using const function name and then exporting default at the end, or using this particular way. And oh, I see what you mean. So I am exporting text input component in the file of text radio component. Thank you so much. So this should be text radio component. Okay. So this first line, that should be text radio component instead of text input component. My bad. Also, let's style this. It looks bad. So we can go to text input component and I can copy these three lines from here. I can copy this class name, and in the section, we have to put it in section. So I can paste it here. Then we have a div. We have actually two div tags. So let me copy those two div tags, paste them here, and we need to close them. So they should close just above the section. So let's close the first div tag here. Let's also close the second div tag here. And yeah, once we have closed that, and I don't know, we need to like hit a hard refresh or something. And now you see this option. I also want the option to be one below the other. Okay, one below the other. So for that, if I want things to be one below the other, well, you could actually go to the Tailwind CSS documentation and see it. But I had actually already done that. So let me just quickly write that thing down. So I have to wrap this particular input with a div tag, and in the div tag you can use the grid layout once again if you want, but you could also use a flex layout. So let's say it takes a class name of mt-4 and flex and gap-4. It did something, but it's still not one below the other. So what's missing? What's missing? What's missing? Think. Hmm. Interesting. I am missing something here, which basically it's causing it to go on the side. Maybe you could have a look at it. Maybe have a look. How do you make it one below the other using the Tailwind CSS? Okay. And second thing, now let's solve that particular problem. Why do we have, like, why are we able to select all the options and not just one option? Well, the answer to it is we actually saw it last time. You need to give it a name. Okay. You need to give it a name and you need to tell it that, hey, all of this belongs to just one particular question. All these options belong to one particular question. So let's give it a name equals to question 2. Okay. So question 2, it's the name, and we have to copy paste that name everywhere. Once we do all that, and now if we go to select, you can only select one option. Okay. You get the idea. Now, if I want to make it more dynamic, I don't want every name to be just Q2. I can just change this to the question number, let's say. Okay, so name equals question number. This will make it more dynamic. Okay, having the name equals to question number will make it more dynamic. Now, every time you won't have q2 as the name, it would be different. And similarly, when the text radio component, you can make it dynamic. Now you can have q3 and change the question to what is the capital of India, and you have the third question. Okay, and you can have like different options. I think this grid is causing the problem for me, so I'm going to delete that. So sorry, but yeah. So we have the options, we have one particular selection in one particular question, and yeah, we solve that. Now, every time, what if you don't have, like, what if you don't have four options every time? Can you make it that dynamic that you don't have four options every time? Yes, you can. Let me show you how. Let me create another file. Let's call it text radio component dynamic .jsx. Okay, I will copy everything that I have from text radio component. I'll paste it in text radio component dynamic, and let me rename this. This would be text radio component dynamic. It takes in question number, it takes in a question, and it takes something called as an array of options. So someone asked in the chat, can we use a for loop or in React? Yes, you can. We are going to do that. So we are taking in a question number, we are taking in a question, and we are taking options. Okay, options will be an array. Okay, and what does it mean to have an array? Array basically means that there are so many things inside one particular thing. Okay, what does that mean? So let's import this in app.jsx. Let's go to, like, let's first import actually. Let's first import our import text radio component dynamic from dot slash text radio component dynamic, and let's write it down here. And what all this takes? It takes in a question number, and that question number can be, let's say, q4 for this time. It takes in question, and that could be what comes next. I don't know, I think I have very few questions. And now for options, now options, it takes it. So anything that you want to write an array or something, you have to wrap it in curly brackets, and then inside that it takes in an array, and that array has label colon. What's the first option? Let's say what comes next in 5, 10, 15, 20, comma, dot dot dot, and it takes in, let's say, the first option as 25, the first label as 25, the next label as 30. Let's take, it takes the next label as 35. Okay, it only takes in three options. If it takes in only three options, let's come back to our text radio component dynamic. It takes in only three options. Okay, we have four options here. What can we do? One option is we can delete it, but no, we don't want to delete it. We want to make it more dynamic. Let me show you how. So here, under line number 14, you can add a curly brackets, and you can say options. Okay, options dot map. So dot map basically says go over everything. And options dot map, it takes in something called as a callback function. Okay, you can see it like suggesting here. So it takes in, and we can say that it take, let's call the variable as each option, and each option, it's an arrow function. I know many new words, ignore it, just see if it works. And oops, there's a problem. There are now two components here. So you can add, let's say, a div tag here, okay, and add your input component inside it, and just delete all these inputs. Okay, let me format this. It takes in each option, and it adds here each option dot whatever we named our variable there. We named it as label. Okay, so voila. Huh, there's only one option here. Why is that so? Let me reload it. Where are we missing something? Are we missing something? We are saying that options dot map each option, and basically go over every option. And in that, okay, we are missing a comma here. So yeah, my mistake. We are missing a comma. So add a comma in the array. And once you reload it, just wait for it. And we have that. We have all the options. Now it's more dynamic. You could just take this and have like just two options, let's say. Okay, just have like two options, and change, you can change the question number to be question 5, and just have like two options. Dynamic. This is what React helps us with. Okay, now I think I'm over time. Now we are like 5 minutes over time. And the link, I will share the link to my REPL in the chat, and have a look at it. I hope you learned something new today. I hope you learned how to get started with React. We took a lot of time in React. We took a lot of time in setting up Tailwind. We understood how to make components, how you can, like, how React, it looks like HTML, but if you take it out and make it dynamic by adding the variables, okay, variables at the top, you can just reuse it many other times. Now, one, like, you can go on YouTube, you can find ton of tutorials on how to get started with React. Okay, I think there is Brad Traversy, I think there is Net Ninja. All those all of them have very good tutorials on getting started with React, getting started with Tailwind. But I hope this session helped you all. I hope you understood how you write it and how you extract it, how you go to Tailwind, take the styles from there, how you go to any other Tailwind components and pick out styles that you need. How do you style it? How do you make it dynamic? Okay, I hope again that was good to you all, and thank you so much everyone for joining in today. I'll upload all the code that I have on GitHub, and see you all later. Thank you. Bye bye.